बलदेव सुभद्रमय की जय श्री भगवान की जय. Very, very warm welcome to everybody for this morning's Japa Yajna. Firstly, before even start, I'd like to thank all the devotees who came for this morning's Japa Yajna and performed their services. Very nice. Thank you from my leader's side. And we move on to the next part of the program, that is discussing of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, on this very auspicious day, we will do a small kirtan. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashunjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayo Gandharvika Giridhari Gandharvika Giridhari Gaura Hari Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jayo Ananta Dev Lakshmi Narasimha Jayo Ananta Dev Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jayo Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jayo Bhakta Prahlad Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. नारायण नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Today we are going to read from Canto 1, Chapter 13, titled Dhritarashtra Quits Home. Verse number 28. अतः उदिच्छं दिशं यातु स्वेर अज्ञातगतिर्भवान् हितो आर्वाक् प्रायशः कालः पुंसा गुणा विकर्षणः. अतः उदिचं दिशं यातु स्वैर् अज्ञातगतिर्भवान् हितो आर्वाक् प्रायशः कालः पुंसा गुणविकर्षणः. Word meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: Please therefore leave for the north immediately without letting your relatives know, for soon that time will approach which will diminish the good qualities of men. Purport: One can compensate for a life of frustration by becoming a dhira or leaving home for good without communicating with relatives. And Vidura advised his elder brother to adopt this way without delay because very quickly the age of Kali was approaching. The conditioned soul is already degraded by the material association, and still in the Kali Yuga, the good qualities of men will deteriorate to the lowest standards. He was advised to leave the home before Kali Yuga approached because the atmosphere which was created by Buddha, his valuable instructions on his facts of life would fade away due to the influence of age, which was fast approaching. To become Narottama, or a first-class human being, depending completely on the Supreme Personality of Lord Sri Krishna, is not possible for an ordinary man. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, 28th verse, that a person who's completely relieved of all taints of sinful acts can alone depend on the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Dhritarashtra was advised by Udara at least to become a Dhira in the beginning, if it were possible for him to become a sannyasi, if it was impossible for him to become a sannyasi or a Narottama. Persistently endeavoring on the lines of self-realization helps a person to rise to the conditions of Narottama from the stage of a Dhira. The Dhira stage is attained after prolonged practice of yoga system. But by the grace of Vidura, one can attain the stage immediately simply by willing to adopt the means of the Dhira stage, which is the preparatory stage for sannyasa. The sannyasa stage is the preparatory stage for Paramahamsa, or for the first grade devotee of the Lord. Before we start any discussions on this verse, we shall seek the prayers from all the Vaishnavas present and the previous Acharyas and Guru Maharaj. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjala Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Krupa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna Padaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale Srimati. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Yes, someone can confirm if my voice is audible.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mataji. Okay. So today we are again discussing this wonderful story which we are going through, or rather the sequence. Vidura coming back advising Dhritarashtra. Ataha udicham disham yatu swayar agnata gatir bhavan. Ito arvak prayasha kalaha pumsaguna vikarshana. Please therefore leave for the north immediately without letting the relatives know, for soon that time will approach which will diminish the good qualities of men. So before I start speaking, let me say that, definitely I do not have the qualifications to talk about these wonderful transcendental subjects which Prabhupada was mentioning. Dhira, sannyasi, paramahamsa, narottama, all these are very, very exalted. A sincere, person or sincere devotee who is practicing renunciation would be ideally to speak. But however, it's given as a seva for us. Thank you. Thanks for our leader. We shall make a small, sincere attempt. Okay. So again, praying to all the Vaishnavas here before I start sharing any points on this verse. So Vidura gives final instructions, right? Almost towards the end. Very, very strong, heavy instructions he was giving to Dhritarashtra. Head towards north, right? So what happened? He had come back from a pilgrimage. Why he started out? Because he was insulted by Duryodhana. He took this as this misfortune into a fortune, right? He said, okay, thank you very much, and I shall go out. Remember, Vidura was a good friend. He was not only a minister, a guide, but also a mentor, right? Apart from being the brother. So, but Dhritarashtra never paid any heeds to this instruction, right? So, Srila Prabhupada writes in one of the purports that, Dhritarashtra was not only physically but also spiritually blind. So, never could work on these instructions. So, right from the beginning, I told, give up Duryodhana. Okay? I mean, it's all right that how a father which father will be ready to give up the son? It's not easy. But he warned him, this is going to be the cause for destruction of the entire family. Why the family? We all know that not just the family, the Kula, the entire 64 crore, whatever, soldiers had died, right? All because of him, right? Now, Duryodhana never took any advice throughout, right? What was he doing? On the contrary, always trying to destroy the Pandavas. In fact, so much so that when Bhima had killed the entire Kauravas, Duryodhana, what we can say, Kali personified, was still with envy and anger, right? And when, in fact, Duryodhana could not just understand all other people used to glorify or Pandavas were liked by everyone else, right? But Duryodhana could not understand why is that Pandavas are always accepted, always glorified. Huh? He could never, he always wanted the same thing and he could never get to the level of Pandavas. Anyway, so Vidura, we all know, was giving some strong advice. Okay. In fact, at some place before the war, he had told him, send him to exile. Okay. Giving up the son, not to fight the war. But then, even there, Duryodhana said, I mean, how can somebody like a son of a servant give me advice? That's the kind of level he was in, right? Then, obviously, he left and he nicely, along with two people who were never in the war. One is Vidura and second is Balramji. So, anyway, he left out, first actually met Uddhava. Uddhava also had received all the instruction from Krishna the moment he had left the material world. But Uddhava, being small, look at the wonderful culture here. He said he didn't want to advise Vidura. He had very nicely told him that go and meet Maitreya Muni and hear from him all the instruction. That is how he perfected his life, came back to Hastinapura. And why? Again, to advise his good friend. He came now as a renunciant, right? That is the reason he was able to speak such strong words, right? Because he was no longer connected to the Kuru dynasty anymore, not accepting salary, no post, just as a saint. He could, in fact, in a couple of verses before, uh, yeah, it was almost 23rd, I think. He says, you're living like a household dog and you're eating remnants of the food given by Bhima. Such strong, uh, words he could speak. But why he had to speak that? Because Dhritarashtra was shameless, right? So much so that even when Pandavas had come back, and it was in fact that is Dharma was established, they had won the war. At that time also, Dhritarashtra was burning with anger and wanted to embrace Bhima and kill, right? You all know how he powdered the, the doll or iron, the form they had kept of Bhima, right? So he still wanted to take that revenge. But look at how wonderful Vidurji or Vidur Mahatma is. He came all the way just to bring back Dhritarashtra back into his senses, right? So Prabhupada writes in a couple of places, coming back to senses, right? So what a presentation Vidurji is making in this Srimad Bhagavatam, just to portray not only for Dhritarashtra, it's for all of us, because we are always hopeful of exploiting and trying to enjoy material nature. Here I'm particularly referring to me. Even as age catches up, we still looking for material enjoyment. That just doesn't stop. So how strong words Vidurji is used so that we all get benefited, right? So in this verse, particularly, he says, traveling towards north, leave to the north immediately, right? So we all know those days living north, heading towards north means heading towards the Himalayas, right? So we all know that what kind of conditions, extreme cold conditions, extreme weather, and no other extra life supports like the way these days people do their trekking. So though they used to go there, find some solitude and start into perfecting their lives, right? Now, which also means ideally they would not return back home. Okay. So which means return back not to their particular homes, but return back home, back to Godhead. That is a perfection of life. Huh? So, in fact, somewhere I had heard that when one lectured, one Prabhuji was senior Vaishnava was saying, perfection life means nobody should know where he died, not in front of all the devotee relatives. Why? Because they all will tell him stay for some more time. Somehow or the other, they will keep coaxing him, making him draw back to being attached to their family life. Anyway, so actually, the person is getting prepared to for the actual purpose of life, right? Which is getting detached from all this family, friends, all other possessions in his life. In fact, the last stage, that is the last 25 years, the three stages we have, right? Brahmacharya, then Grihastha, Vanaprastha. The last stage is just purely for preparation, giving life a good shape. I mean, the sense throughout you need to get practiced very good brahmacharya, then grihastha, you then utilize all the practices of brahmacharya and grihastha. Then if you perform all your grihastha life perfectly the way it is, then vanaprastha is the perfect stage to set, so that the last stage is giving it the final shape, going back home, back to Godhead, or remembering Krishna all the time, right? So if one does not utilize the life fully, right? What was Shankaracharya saying? All the time for, Prabhuji was just recently mentioning that throughout childhood he's interested in playing. When he becomes young, behind men and women wanting to get married. Then Vrinda stage at 50, lot of chinta magna, right? Chinta, what is going to happen? Who's going to take care of my children, my family? And then finally, he's worried about himself, who's going to take care of himself. However, nobody is thinking of the Supreme Lord. All these stages, right? So that is why it says all these four stages we should give a good shape of our life. Nowadays, you cannot wait till there's no guarantee that the last stage you will stay. So it's better to give it a good shape of the life. So in Srimad Bhagavatam here, Vidura is advising Dhritarashtra, you don't tell your relatives. He's saying, what will happen if you tell your relatives? Anyone can say quickly? Okay. So if you tell your relatives, they will not allow you to leave, right? They'll say, now what happens interestingly if you tell them that you're getting into Krishna consciousness? Then also they'll be worried. What will happen to worried for what? Worried for their part of sense gratification. Oh, this person was very nice before he came into Krishna consciousness. Now he's not joining any of our party. Doesn't come out any movie. They're worried not about us. They're worried that their part of sense gratification is going to be missing. So that is the problem, right? So anyway, uh, we are in actually serious business because we've got this human form of life. If someone is become a devotee, he understands he's got this form very very special, and then he starts giving time to shape his life, good to give it a good shape. Because if you keep pursuing still your material desires, what are you doing? You're only designing your next body, right? Instead, if you purify our desires, or and then give shape to our spiritual desires, right? What happens if you don't do this? Material desires will dominate, right? Whatever input we give, that's an output, right? So purifying our desires is very, very important. Like that brings us to this question: how do we purify ourselves? Who's our biggest enemy? We'll just spend a few minutes on that. Right. We all know, I'm sure all of us will agree, yes, chanting by chanting the holy names of the Lord and in the association of pure devotees is the best way to purify. Now, we are all in the association of devotees. Every morning we come in very nicely, join this, Zoom sessions. Yes, we are in devotees, we are chanting. Now, but who's our biggest enemy? Is the second part, which I said. Who's our biggest enemy? Which is the biggest non-devotee association we have? Can anyone quickly say? Just few seconds. Who's our enemy? Who's the biggest non-devotee association we have?
Mind, Prabhuji. Mind.
Huh?
Mind, Prabhu. Mind.
Fantastic. Very good. Mind, our own mind. How much importance we are giving to the thought which is passing on through the mind, right? That is important. Now, Duryodhana was telling Vidura in okay, one place. He said, "No, I know Dharma. Don't teach me. I know. It's just that I'm not inclined to follow Dharma." Right? What stopped him from following Dharma? what I just said some time back, which is because of his biggest enemy, right? That is his own mind. Duryodhana's mind was so dominating. I mean, basically to lord it over the material desires, material world. He wanted to lord over it, right? That was it, the thought which was empowering it, right? So, what is the problem? There was a lack of strength to overcome the desire, right? So, why are we lacking that sense to overcome this? Why are we not able to overcome that desire? Very simple. The answer is we don't have the strength again, right? Now, where does this strength come from? How can we dominate that desire? Right? Chanting, rendering service to devotees, through serving the Supreme Lord. This has to be constant. This service has to be constant because we still have sinful tendencies and sinful propensities. That is why Srila Prabhupada writes in this purport, yeah, Bhagavad Gita 7.28, Esam ta antagatam papam, jnananam punya karmana, te dandvo moha nirmukta bhajate mam dhridavartaha. Persons who have acted piously in the previous life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated and freed from dualities of delusion. They engage themselves in my service with what? Dridavataha, with determination. Right? So even for devotees, why are sometimes we are struggling? Uh, Again, every time, please remember, I'm referring to myself, right? Unable to overcome certain desires. Why? Because we do not have the sufficient strength. We are why we don't have sufficient strength? Because we are not giving sufficient emphasis to purify our sinful propensities, to purify our sinful tendencies. Right? Duryodhana was struggling with such sinful tendencies, and he was surrounded with men who are fueling these sinful desires. Right? So we know that. That brings us back to association is the key, right? Though Duryodhana had Vidura, Bhishma, they were all there. But he was surrounded with whom? Shakuni, Karna, Vikarna, Dushasana. Everybody was fueling his desires. Huh? So it very important whom we are surrounded by and whom we are serving. That is also very, very important. To eradicate the sinful desires, to eradicate the sinful propensities, we need to be performing strong devotional service. Only by rendering services to Vaishnavas, and those Vaishnavas who are serving the Supreme Lord, avidya can be overcome. Right? So, what should we do to this to ensure the sinful desire or sinful propensities are totally away? Right? These most of them are in the form of all these propensities, desires are all in form of whatever prarabdha, kuta, bija, palam, all different stages, right? They have to be fried in devotional service, right? So this sinful tendencies and sinful propensities then can be eradicated. Now, if you sow a seed, normal seed, what will happen? It very nicely water it, you take care of it, it becomes a plant, then a tree, the hundreds of fruits come, right? Now, think of this situation. What if the seed is fried completely and then planted? Right? It won't germinate, right? Now we have to fry the seeds, right? Please note that frying means don't go and sit in a hot stove. No, we have to fry, which means where we have to fry it in fire. Which fire? The fire of devotional service. Constantly there has to be this fire. Have you ever tried making chapati with switching on the stove and then say, no problem, I kept it for 5 minutes, let me put the chapati? Will it get done? No way, right? So constantly there is to be the fire of devotional service, but which means if there is a plate washing service, come and do it constantly. If there is a Rajaboga cooking, go ask for my name. In fact, it should be the other way around. We should give trouble to the seniors saying whom to choose, right? Such should be the enthusiasm of ours. Then dining hall cleaning, whatever, temple dining hall cleaning, kitchen cleaning, whatever devotional services are coming within our gambit, grab them. That is the what we actually, when you say fire constantly, when that fire is constantly there, then the seed that sinful desire, sinful propensities, all those sinful tendencies will get fried or burned totally, right? So what happens to us in general? again to me, is that when we are performing devotional service, sometimes we become weak. Why is it so? It's like because we ignite the fire, right? That is start the devotional service and sometimes pour water into it. When you pour water into the fire, how does it happen? No, right? It doesn't. It switches off. Okay, in Kali Yuga, the fire of devotional service has to be constantly fanned too. Have you seen Homa? They keep doing that. Otherwise, what happens? The fire, goes down, right? So that is why the fanning is also constantly to be done. How? By associating with pure devotees, reading Srimad Bhagavatam. What is the shloka we say? Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, right? So that has to happen. We are all doing it wonderfully. Then, if the fire is not fanned, it will let down. So, regularly reading scriptures will burn away the impurities of the heart. Regularly reading, what will happen? All the desires arising from the three modes will be purified. How? Now the question, it comes against to the question, whom are we associating? Huh? When we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Whom are we associating when we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam? Anybody? Very quickly. Okay.
Devotees.
Yes, devotees and purest devotee, Srila Prabhupada. Right? When we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, every purport, every line which Prabhupada is, written is so thoughtful, right? Giving up so many hours of his sleep, he was writing all this for us. So that, the Srila Prabhupada, the realizations of previous acharyas, Krishna, everything, because Krishna is saying, this is non-different from me. So when we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we are actually associating with the purest of the devotees and Krishna himself, right? Constantly, if this happens, what happens? Our good propensity will be given shape. Remember, we are all talking of giving shape to our lives. This will be given shape. And that direction will be given to us through Srimad Bhagavatam. Whom to serve, how to serve, we will come to know this. So what happens then? Our intelligence is purified, which is when we constantly read Srimad Bhagavatam, our Viveka Buddhi and Visheshana Buddhi Shakti will improve. That is, our power of discrimination and the power of determination will increase, right? That is how Vidura was giving advice to Dhritarashtra. At least become a Dhira. Forget your Paramahamsa, or what is the other stage he said? Or Narottama, right? Or becoming a pure devotee. Even if that is not there, we need to at least try to become a Dhira. Now, who is a Dhira? We all know someone who can control mind and senses, right? Right. But for that also, somebody may ask how to control. I mean, if the person doesn't know there is a gross body, there is a subtle body, and there is a spirit soul, many times many of them cannot discriminate this between mind, ego, and intelligence. Only those who have actually come into the school called International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Consciously, I'm saying school, because only who's come into this university, only who's come in touch with this parampara will come to know these differences. Mind, see what happens, mind is first acting on the, how you say, some people, right, they immediately act on the spontaneously, whatever the mind says, I'll do. There is gulab jamun kept in front. Naturally, I'm using gulab jamun, my favorite sweet. You immediately take it and put it in the mind. Now, but for a diabetic person, he knows that the moment he pops it, it's going to hit about 200, right? The blood sugar will raise. Now, if he cannot control this urge, then then what is he in the which level is he acting? He's acting on the level of the mind, right? So mind will tell eat now, okay? And later on we'll see, I know one tablet is there, we can pop that, right? What happens? So basically becoming a slave of the mind. Why? So mind will tell eat, but what will follow? Suffering will follow, right? Mind, you all know very, very early in Bhagavad Gita, we would have learned this, that it just repeats pleasurable experiences. What is the job of it? If moment you see, it will remind you last time how it was the gulab jamun. It was so tasty, juicy. Let me pop one. That's all it says, right? It will propel you to act and make you suffer in the future. In fact, a very interesting study I heard this from the senior Vaishnava in a class, that there is a test performed in Stockholm. Okay, Stockholm University. They gave this marshmallows. Marshmallows is like one sweet. Imagine one very nice, it's been given to children, right? So, and they were all locked in a room and they were given about some 20 odd minutes and told, whoever doesn't eat, you have to control not eating, right? If you do not eat, we'll give you some more, something like that, 1 hour. So, after 20 minutes, naturally, when they opened, many children, moment the door was closed, they popped one, and a few could take after 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute. And after, say, 20 minutes, hardly were a few were remaining who kept the plate full of marshmallows. Now, I'll tell you what is the most important study here. After 20 years, these kids who did not were all mapped, they were tracked, their entire how their student life was, job, career, family, all this, right? Uh, they tracked, and those, and can you believe it? Those people who were not taking those sweets, the marshmallows, they were the ones who are very, very successful, very bright future, fantastic career. Even their family lives was great. And the rest of the forget the even the rest of them, right from youth, they were not good. Forget everything else. It was all bad future. And this experiment was to find out the how is the mind and intelligence used. Remember, Mataji and Prabhuji, this was not a devotee. This was nothing to do, just a material team. They themselves knew this difference. Okay, so we could clearly see who was the one who could shape their lives, right? So we were talking of mind, the intelligence. What will it do? It will give you the reasoning power. Why should you not eat now? If I eat now, my whatever, my diabetic will move, or somebody who's having a piles should clearly state that I'm not going to eat this spicy stuff. It's going to trouble me. Why should I suffer in the future? It will give that. Then with that reasoning, you can clearly identify this that okay, I am not going to get succumb to this mind, not going to get into the slave. Now, how will ego, what has happened most of the time, right? We are acting on the false ego platform. It's like some big bogie attached to a train, it's, or can say person is tied a rope and he's tied a stone. Every time he's walking, that stone comes and hits him back, right? So the more we identify on the false tendencies, the more we identify on the false enjoyership, the more we identify on the false controllership, we suffer more. That's what happening to Dhritarashtra, always with false identifications. Only Vidura could come down and warn him. Okay, in Kali Yuga has come. Hare Baba, at least become a Dhira. Okay, now is this not to be seen as a story? We are hearing some nice Bhagavatam in the morning, very beautiful stories. No, these instructions are not for Dhritarashtra alone. It is for all of us, right? So we are going to become devotees. We are going to we have to, we still have those sinful tendencies, propensities. Are we working towards purifying our hearts and performing devotional service, purifying ourselves, at least become the dhira, and then look at the stage of, whatever, sannyasi or an narottama and things like that. The choice is given to us, right? This morning classes we hear, oh, and like I said, not like a story. Is this for us to work on a negative side in our own lives? In my case again, can I rectify this? Can I take this forward? We all keeping our bad habits, right, as it is, just like Bhagavad Gita as it is. How can I continue? How can I see whether I can convert these bad into wonderful habits? Can I if not, we will still continue with our sinful tendencies. So what is the last line? I just end, I know it's 6:45. We need to increase the time for Krishna and reduce the time for Maya. So, which means we need, if we want to shape our lives, increase our spiritual time and reduce Maya's time. You know what is Maya's time? Just simply reduce smartphone time itself is enough. So, increase our reading, increase our hearing, increase our chanting, right? Then negative is given lesser time. So starve. Today is the day we are all actually fasting half a day for this one on this wonderful auspicious day. That way, starve this bad dog in us, right? Let us work with for our good qualities, which we are always daily hearing from senior Vaishnavas, hearing the classes. So keep change. Let's all make a change towards the purification and towards our good habits. Actually, let's let go of this Maya. Then we will be giving a right shape and to the right desire and the shape our future very nicely. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. This is the way from my limited understanding I could share something from this verse. If I made any mistakes or hurt anyone, please forgive me. And needless to say, please correct me. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Yeah, somebody had reminded me time. Thank you. I have